And then it just kind of hit me one day, and it was like, all right, so, and I think I probably said it with a lot of sarcasm to myself or my spirit or whatever. It's like, okay, fine, if I'm the creator of my life and I supposedly created this, then I can supposedly uncreate it. And mostly I just wanted to prove somebody wrong.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to Priestess of Ordinary Things, a podcast for spiritual misfits, modern mystics, and folks of all genders tasked with tending the sacred within everyday life. My name is Kate Fontana. I'm a psychic, a pagan priestess with Christian vibes, and mentor to the spiritual fringe. I help spiritual misfits like you connect in down-to-earth ways to your innate resilient center, and to nurture reluctant leaders on their sacred priestess path. Welcome.
Lovely. Well, good morning. Hello and welcome to my lovely mentor, teacher, guest, Nancy Rebecca. Thank you for being here.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Um, I am so happy to have this conversation with you. Nancy, let's see. I feel like I go back a long time with you. It's
Yeah.
maybe different in the reciprocal way because I came in as a student and but I think my first interaction was one of the like equinox or solstice meditations, like group meditations that you lead. Um,
And that was in
and
person, right? That was
that was
that
when
was
you
at
were
our
still in
space.
person.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at least maybe 10 years ago,
Yeah.
8 or 10 years ago. Um, and then kind of spirits took me a roundabout way into psychic mastery. That was in 2017. And I was like, I have no interest in becoming a professional psychic, but this sounds interesting. I just kept getting led back to you and your work. And then, yeah, I went full immersion with it and it was life-changing. And I know that your work has impacted so many lives and you're really attuned to this level of planetary transformation that we're going through right now. So
Yeah.
I'm excited for the conversation today.
Yeah, me too.
Um, so let me just introduce you more formally. I have a short bio to share. So Nancy has been teaching intuitive and psychic development full time for over 20 years. Before that, she was a hospital nurse until a spontaneous out-of-body experience cracked her open and left her clairvoyantly sighted. From that moment on, she could see energy fields and her life was never the same. Since then, she's devoted her life to helping others awaken to their spiritual gifts, clear what no longer serves, and live in alignment with their highest self. So, welcome, Nancy.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Is there anything else you would want to add by way of introducing yourself?
Well, I think, one of the biggest things was when my out of body experience, my spontaneous, a lot of times people think of it as like a near death experience that I had to have some event or tragedy that caused me to leave my body and that it was near death. And it wasn't any of those things. It was just a lot of stress.
Mm,
And I know that a lot of people are living under a lot of stress right now, but at the time, yes, I did hospital nursing, and then I had been invited to go teach hospice nurses how to care for end of life care for individuals who had heart and lung disease, because that had been my specialty at the hospital. And normally in hospice, we always relate it to cancer, end of life care with cancer. But for me, so they asked me to come in and train the nurses on how to do end of life care for heart and lung disease. And I ended up loving it. And so I ended up staying. But in that first year, three of my own family members died within a 4-month period of time.
mhm,
So
mhm.
here It's very different when you're working in intensive care because it's very rapid pace, very acute care. Get them stabilized, move them on. Get them
Mm-hmm.
stabilized, move them on. Where in hospice, you just sit for long periods of time quietly,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
at the bedside. It's very emotional. Intensive care is very fast. You don't really tap into emotions. As a matter of fact, you need to stay detached in some way so
Yeah.
that you can
Yeah.
do the task at hand. So that's what happened. I was under a lot of stress. I was really distraught. And I I was not raised in any professional religion, which I know is very different than how you were raised. But I wasn't raised in that way. But so I just kind of pretended like I knew how to pray. I went into my bedroom. I locked the door because I just didn't want anybody to see what I was doing. And then I thought, well, when you pray, you have to get on your knees. And when you pray, you have to put your hands together like this. I was probably, I don't even know if I was 30 years old at the time, but I was desperate. And so I wanted to do all the right things before I could talk to God. And then I didn't even know if God existed. I just, everything was pretend on my knees, pretend my hands together, pretend there is a God, pretend there is somebody out there that can listen to my how distraught I am that my loved ones are dying. And then I just cried and out loud I said, God, why do people have to die? And nothing happened. It wasn't like it was just like, okay, I cried a lot. All right. Let me wipe the tears and go back out and take care of my kids and my husband and go back to work and just get your act together, Nancy. And it was 3 days, a couple of days later, I had this kind of hit to maybe I should pretend that maybe I should meditate because people that meditate are really calm. And so I went to the bookstore and I got a book on meditation. I brought it home. It was hiding in a brown paper sack, and I just hid it in the bookshelf behind because I didn't want anybody to know that I was doing these crazy things. Like we're under this impression we've got to have it all together all the time. At least I
Mm-hmm.
did. And then that night I snuck down after everybody had gone to bed. I pulled that meditation book out and I just love it because it was so simple. It's like, okay, put on soft music. All right, find the soft music, put on the soft light. Okay, light a candle, go into the drawers. Where's a candle? Like I just wanted to do all the right things to talk to God or to talk to spirit or just have somebody hear my pleas. Like I just thought I needed to do everything just perfectly.
Mm.
And after about 5 minutes and then it says breathe. Okay. Like I didn't even know how to breathe.
Yeah.
And
It's
then
so endearing.
and then all of a sudden everything felt a bit strange and maybe a little bit scary. And when I have thought back on it, it felt like suddenly I was not in the room alone. It's
Mm.
but I couldn't see anything. Anyway, I went to bed, got my pajamas on, went to bed. There was a flash of light, and then I was standing next to my bed, and that's history. The voice said, I'm gonna do a little ad lib of God's voice. Like, oh, and by the way, Nancy, you don't die. Your
Mm.
spirit lives on. You just
Mm.
release the body. And I was shown. It wasn't like I could just be told that. It's like
Mhm.
that voice that I knew to me as God. I had an out of body experience, so I could see that my body was separate from my soul. And then the
Mhm.
voice said, now I need you to go out and help other people remember they are also a soul.
Mhm.
That's how it all started.
Mhm. What a powerful beginning. But
Well, I needed that.
mhm.
Yeah, the little tiny voices were not doing it for me. And
Mhm.
looking back, there were a lot of little voices, over probably a 7-year period of time. And it did
Like pushing you or nudging you.
yeah, health issues or
Mm.
marital issues, um, not knowing what I was doing raising kids, it's like, you've got these preteens and it's like you're trying to figure out what to do. Like there were all these little steps that were unsettling, but I just kept going. And then
Mm-hmm.
it was like I couldn't pretend that everything was okay anymore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting that you're pointing to like the hardships or the friction points of your life as the nudges.
Yeah.
I think we often think the signs or whatever are like the skies parting or, like a raven dropping a message on your at your feet. And um, one thing found so powerful and transformative of doing psychic mastery with you was just the sort of the level up to take radical responsibility for my life, for all of the circumstances in my life,
Yeah.
um, and and restoring a sense of empowerment. Um, I think that sort of principle can sometimes come across as like blaming the victim or something. Like if your life is bad, it's your fault. Um, but I think in the deepest way, it's that restoring of agency um, to oneself. And what you do is really teaching the tools for leveraging that agency to um, make change, make like really profound change in one's life.
Yeah. Well, um, I felt like I was the victim of my circumstances.
Yeah,
And and I was in many ways. I mean, there were a lot of circumstances that were pretty rough. And it's like why do bad things happen to good people? I was a good person,
yeah,
and I was doing all the right things. So
yeah,
why aren't all the right things happening? And this is just aside from people die, that's aside from that. But it's like and so there was something that struck me in my own learning process, and I did find a teacher, as well. But when they make that statement, you are the co-creator of your life, for example, like what does that even mean? And then it just kind of hit me one day, and it was like, all right, so and I think I probably said it with a lot of sarcasm to myself or my spirit or whatever. It's like, okay, fine, if I'm the creator of my life and I supposedly created this, then I can supposedly uncreate it. And mostly I just wanted to prove somebody wrong.
yeah.
That stuff happens in life, and sometimes it's not very great. But what I
Mhm.
found was I could change things. I could change how things were I could create a different scenario, a different way to look at things, that there was more than one way to view what was happening and why it was happening. And it came out of a strong desire to shift cycles, whether it's
Yeah,
cycles of the relationships that I choose, or cycles about how I may react or don't react to a situation. I became curious. It was like my life became modeling clay. And if I could truly model it, what would that be? And mostly what I ended up learning was that the shape of who I am already exists. It's just covered up with a lot of stuff.
hmm hmm
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was one of the surprises of psychic mastery was like 90 some percent is self-healing. Um,
Yes.
it's like it's just clearing the debris that covers our own luminosity and
Yes.
God self.
Yes.
And I think what also, part of my skepticism coming in was like, I don't think I'm psychic. I thought I was, I thought I had a good intuition sometimes. And I was also like, you know, I was into yoga and some of those medium peripheral healing arts, but psychic was not in my scope of things. Um, but you have always been, I think it was really important for me that it was you who was my entry point to it because you you're just a real person. You're just a pretty down to earth person. And I think, your background in being a nurse and like really living in the world or whatever.
Yeah.
And this is no shade on other styles of psychics, but like you're not you're not like wearing bangles and scarves and like
I did
entering
go through
in
that phase, though, I will admit, because I did go through that phase early on. I
lovely.
bought the Birkenstocks. Let's just say that.
Well, you do live in Washington, so
That's right.
um but yeah, I just that has always been really grounding to me, your personality in that and the um and what you said immediately. I think I got on a call with you about psychic mastery and was like, I don't think I'm particularly psychic and I have no interest in being a professional psychic. And you said, well, everyone's psychic and the work here is just uncovering
Yeah.
that. um and I don't remember what you said about becoming a professional, but I think it was just probably, with like a little twinkle in your eye or something like, okay, you don't have to have that as a goal.
That's right. You don't have to do
um
that. Well, and it's all about self-healing.
yeah.
From our premise of the program is you learn how to do readings so that the person you're reading can mirror back to you what you either are not able to see in yourself or unwilling to see in yourself or can be surprised about yourself. And if the person you're reading happens to get something out of it, that's a bonus.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so it's like sometimes I'll have students that's like, well, I don't want to do readings. I just want to do self-healing. And it's just like, oh, honey, you have no idea. You really want to do some self-healing? You do readings.
You do the readings.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are the true mirrors.
They're the true mirror, and your spirit organizes it. Your spirit's like, I remember once working with someone and she said, I'm having trouble getting in touch with my anger. And I don't like it. I don't want to feel it. Like she said. So she said, I just put it out to my higher self, put it out to the world. Just, I want to attract a lot of people for readings that are just really angry people. And I remember thinking that was such a concept. And sure enough, one person after another came in and said, well, I came to work with you because I have anger management issues. It just blew my mind. She asked the universe what she needed, and then it helped her to get in touch with healthy expressions of her anger or her rage or her frustration.
Mm-hmm.
But she was able to see it in a way in them that she couldn't see it in herself. And
Hmm.
yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, this is sort of a diversion, but just kind of to, because so much of my work is earth based, spirit through earth. Would you share a little bit about just like who you are existing in the world, like your immediate ecology, where you are, who are your like significant people or animals or whoever you
Yeah.
do life with?
Yeah, yeah. So I was born in Arkansas and all my family is from the South. And I actually last year went to Arkansas during the solar eclipse. It was the first time I'd been back in
Mm,
like 45 years or something.
mm,
And oh gosh, it was so awesome. My father he just retired from the military. He's a military doctor. He was stationed up here at Fort Lewis in Tacoma, Washington. And I was just finishing up high school. I ended up getting married here, having my kids here. So my current life is that Yvonne and I, my wife, are just celebrating this year 25 years.
Oh,
I just said to her
yeah.
yesterday, I was like, oh my gosh, can you believe we've been married for like for 25 years? It's just mind blowing.
Oh, it's
And
beautiful.
so, and then I have two adult kids in their 40s. I have a daughter and a son, and then I have three grandkids. So I have a grandson who's going to be 20, just turned 23, and then another one who's 17, grandson, and then a granddaughter who's 14. And then I have a sweet dog, Sadie Mae. I was never a dog person. I was never an animal person because I was so other oriented as a nurse and a mother and, taking care of others. I just didn't want an animal to take care of. And oh my gosh, she's just turned my life into mush.
Mm, mm,
Um, I did live quite isolated for quite a while, out far away from things, but what I've learned about my nature, which I didn't know before, is I love to feel the hum of the city. So I actually
mm,
lived in the city of Tacoma.
mhm.
And Yvonne restored. So we had this house situation where Spirit said, you need to buy this house. And we're like, literally, it was falling apart. It was condemned. And so we made an offer because we do listen to Spirit, and we were hoping they would turn down the offer, and they didn't. And uh,
Uh-huh.
and so I worked and would hand over my paycheck to Yvonne, and then Yvonne would take the money and completely restored this 1890 home, and she won the restoration award for Pierce County, and so yeah, we share a love of old houses and we travel a lot. That's big. We just got back from Egypt and
I know, I saw that. It was amazing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And yeah, I lived in South Africa for a while and there's just a lot. But I'm finding these days I'm really enjoying being a homebody. Yeah.
I imagine you need that more and more with how much your work is expanding and your public presence is expanding. There's the kind of counterbalance I imagine you need a lot more.
Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to kind of work with that. I think it was probably ever since COVID. I had been diagnosed with breast cancer during COVID. So you were a part of all that
Hmm.
process that I went through as well. And so yeah, now I can feel like this gentle tug to get back out and socialize a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was just like keep the home fires burning,
Hmm.
inside of me and just yeah. That life does that to you though. It lets you know what it needs.
Hmm.
My my human parts lets me know what I need and if I'm listening, I'll do it.
Hmm. And if you're not listening, it'll get louder until you do it.
Yes, it'll get louder till you have an out of body experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's so many different areas of work that you've done, and I know interests that you have um, that I kind of what I'm feeling is like I'm wondering if I could name a couple of the ones that I know of or that have kind of piqued my interest over the years, and maybe you can just feel into like what feels alive for you, what if there are things that are, you've been working on recently that feel like they want to be shared around these different topics. Does
Yeah.
that seem
Yeah.
cool? Um, okay, well, one project, I don't know if you'd use that word, but you've been tuned into this blue light for many years. So I feel like that's a whole deep dive that's possible. Um, One that seems kind of unavoidable is like I know you do your monthly frequency forecasts, and um, me and a lot of folks in our community, we're riding this political environment, the world shifting and kind of intensifying in so many ways, and I think there could be a deep dive around like how you're seeing these times, and what guidance you have for people like who are experiencing these times in like, in the turmoil of it and also in the transformation of it. Um, this might be into left field, but I know you're really into aliens and
And Sasquatch, can't forget
and
Sasquatch.
yes, and the supernatural earth beings. Um,
Yes.
and at the most basic level, I know your expertise is in the human energy field. Um,
And the
so
body. Yeah.
and the body, yeah. So that could be a real, you know,
Yeah.
personalized focus topic. So anything in that or anything I missed that's like that's the most active or kind of juicy thing you're working on right now that you want to talk about?
Well, yeah. I'll try to, when I had my out of body experience, I tell people I came suddenly sighted. So I need to describe that like we know clairvoyance. And I do want to say about psychic, I need to put the plug in here because when Spirit told me I needed to use the word psychic instead of intuition, intuition is soft, psychic is piercing.
Hmm.
And I said, nobody's going to sign up for my classes. And they were like, the world's going to catch up with you, Nancy. Just keep using the word psychic. And I looked it up. And the Greek root word for psychic means the breath of the soul. And so when you go to someone for a psychic reading, the breath of their soul is connecting to the breath of your soul. And I'm like, that is so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
How did it become not beautiful? How did it become ugly? And so it's an education piece. But for me, the clairvoyance, there's many levels of intuitive senses. So sometimes it's always an educational issue. And my spirit always tells me this. It's always an educational issue. People just don't know. And they've most recently had me make this 11 or 12 video series of
Mm.
12 different ways that you can use your intuition. Mine happens to be sight. So when I had the out of body experience, I could all of a sudden I could see illness in the body or I could see the damaged chakra. I didn't know what a chakra was. I didn't know what an aura was. I didn't know we were spirit. I mean, as shocking as that sounds, I didn't know that. And so I began to see because I was still working at the hospital or in hospice, and depending on the illness, would show up differently in the energy fields. I'm the one thing that I know you know about me, but I'm like crazy curious. Like I
Yeah,
love to follow breadcrumbs.
yeah.
So I spent over 20 years. I read over 30,000 individual auras where I'm studying and trying to understand. Okay, so that's my love, that's my passion that will never go away. So in 2017 is when the blue beings of light, the star beings came in. And I was not an alien, Sasquatch, star being kind of person. I always tell people I like to get underwear for my birthday. I'm really practical. Like don't give me something I'm not going to use or it's going to be a garage sale item next year. And so my thinking's very practical and star beings were not practical. Aliens are not practical. Sasquatch is not practical. It's like past lives, all this stuff was like what's happening in the here and now. So I think that was probably more created for me to help me to learn how to stay focused, to not mentally be all over the map.
Mm.
But I was really torn for quite a few years. They came through in 2017 and I mean, it's a big story and you can, on YouTube, you can learn more about it or you can ask more about it if you feel like that needs to be fleshed out, Kate. But in 2000,
I'll include some links in the show notes and we can include
yeah,
one for that. Yeah.
yeah, because I was just meditating. There was nothing else was going on. It was just quiet time in my meditation room, and it filled up with these blue tall beings and said, "We need you to go to China and get the prophecy on what's going to be happening over the next few years." And okay, well, you find me the money and I'll go to China, you know. And 2 weeks later, a Chinese woman showed up at my doorstep and said, I will take you and I will
Oh
pay
my
for
God.
everything.
Oh my gosh.
So yes, this stuff happens. You can create your life like this, but I
Mhm.
thought they would just go away, but they didn't. They were like, all right, you told us what you need. We're fulfilling that. And the prophecy was that there would be big surges of blue light coming to help all of humanity awaken to their divinity. We'll just kind of put that in a nutshell. But I still really wanted to hide from it because I wanted to be taken seriously as a professional nurse, as just as a person that's got her head on straight. And what I'm finding now, because this is like 8 years later, I'm like, I just want to do the body stuff. And now it's like it's all coming together.
Mm,
They're all blending now because as we awaken, as we're getting activated on the inside, suddenly I'm beginning to learn that all of our internal organs and our nervous system and our, you know, microbiome and all this stuff is intimately connected to the cosmos. You know, it's
mm,
intimately connected to the earth and the mycelium. And it's just like, oh my gosh, I had no idea how interconnected it was. And I feel like I was like this mule, you know, and the universe is pulling at me and I've just got my heels dug in because I'm like, this doesn't make practical sense. But now I just kept going. And so it's all come together. And the alien piece um is when I had breast cancer and I really felt horrible from the chemotherapy. And I just needed something that was so outside my wheelhouse that it would help keep me distracted. And so I found the show Ancient Aliens. And I thought, well, that's pretty far out of my wheelhouse, but it was, I love ancient history. And so I just kind of hung on to that. And that's just kind of how it started. So Yvonne and I were just talking about this yesterday where when you really let yourself listen to any other worldviews that are different than yours, and if you really listen, it's like, oh, that kind of makes sense, you know?
mm.
And so now this is what I know. What I knew 30 years ago, what I believed 30 years ago, I don't believe now. What I believed 20 years
Yeah.
ago, what I will believe 20 years from now, well, not what I believe now. And so
Yeah.
why not just go with the flow? So,
Yeah. I do admire that so much in you, your curiosity, as you said, and your willingness to like be hold lightly your quote unquote beliefs,
yeah.
and explore or like and be willing to kind of follow the threads of curiosity um in a there's kind of an innocence to it, I feel like, in a not so serious
Yeah.
kind of way.
Yeah.
It's
Well, I
making me
ask questions, you know,
yeah,
and what's coming up right now is like, for example, uh, um, like dogma and religion, whether it's Christianity, whether it's Hinduism, whether it's Muslim, no matter what it is that you can have, you can, in the spiritual communities that I work in, we can have dogma, like you've got to do
totally.
yoga and you've got to be a vegetarian, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
but there was so much about Christianity and dogma and how it's destroying our world and all this stuff. So I just got curious and I had a conversation with that voice that I know is God. And that voice that I know is God then explained to me there's a lot of people, a lot of young kids that grow up without any structure and it's chaotic and it's in constant crisis and all this stuff. And they love to find a place where they know the rules,
Hmm.
you know,
Hmm.
where they can be welcomed in. They know the rules, they know what to follow. It creates a structure. Then they can take that blueprint of that structure, dogmatic or not, and then apply it to the rest of their life. And then that voice that I know is God said, the problem comes when they got what they need from the structure, and now they want to explore in a more open way and maybe explore some other things. And then they're told that they're turning away, that they're not in alignment, their soul's not going to be saved. It's like, but I love that explanation. They were saying the same with the military, that a lot, when you go in the military, is that structure really helps people who didn't have structure. So I'm
Yeah.
not saying either one of those are right or wrong, or what you believe or anybody believes. What I'm trying to express here is I didn't just jump on the bandwagon. I went into meditation and I had a conversation to help me understand more why there are leanings one way or another. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Which has been, I mean, I'm hearing you describe what your direct connection to God, spirit, whomever.
I ask
Um,
questions. Yeah.
yeah. Hmm. Yeah. And that has also been such a tenet of your teaching is like, don't take my word for it.
Right.
Check in. And, you know, I I think one thing that has been so powerful with learning from you is there's a real leveling of the playing field. Like I remember during the times when we were still doing like rose reading trades amongst
Yeah.
the graduates, and you were in the circuit of it. And some point I was assigned to you, and like I was supposed to do a reading for you, and you were doing one for me, and I was like, I'm supposed to read Nancy? Like, how could I possibly? But like, you you're using the same things that you have taught us to use, and so
Right.
there's there's no hierarchy in that. There's a
Right.
real leveling. You
Yeah.
have more practice. You have the envied clairvoyance, like seeing. Um, but like the process is the same, and the nurturing of each of our like direct connection. Um, and real empowerment in like listening to that and being anchored and grounded in that. Um, I've found
Yeah.
that to
And I,
be.
and I learned that through doing readings for other people is I remember people would come in and they're like, I'm scared. I don't even know why I'm here. I I just felt compelled to come, and I go and tune into them, and then I'm just like, well, let's just forget this. Why don't you just read me? Like I can see
Mm,
right away they're insecure, they're scared, they're nervous, they don't want to open up to things that maybe they can't manage. But
mm,
it's like they're so talented, and yet we do measure things academically in a hierarchical way. That's kind of the nature of humanity. And it's just not true. Like and that's what spirit told me. There's a lot of people that are going to be waking up, and what does that waking up mean? Just to their authenticity and to their senses and how they move through the world. It's just like becoming more aware. And because I said, well, people are going to be waking up to their psychic intuitive ability. Why do we even need classes anymore? And I was told because they're going to be confused, like, oh, I didn't know I was intuitive, and now I am. And now what do I do with this? But I was told at the time, this was in 2007. I can remember it as clear as if it was said yesterday. Nancy, the biggest problem in the world is not going to be people suddenly realizing they're intuitive or they're psychic. The biggest problem are the ones that have been being psychics and intuitives for a long time, think that they know better,
mm,
and think that I've been meditating for 20 years. You can't possibly know that, I mean, and that's exactly what Spirit
mm,
told me. It's like, Nancy, you better get your ego in check, and all the spiritual people need to get their ego in check, because you're going to have
mm,
people that they're going to be born with a lot more ability than you have. So
mm,
you better be okay with that. And I was just like,
mm,
wow, that's true.
mhm,
It's true that, especially if you've worked hard for a long time and it just
mhm,
comes easy for someone, it can be easy to just want to discount them. But
Mm.
these tools, it's the level playing field. I mean, you could have been a Rinpoche in another lifetime, you know. I mean, you just never know what's going to come through. And that's the beauty about um, new people too, because you don't know what you don't know. So you just, anything goes, and they're just like,
Yeah.
oh, they're nailing it. You know, I love it.
Yeah, you don't know what's done or not done, or,
Yeah, you don't know what's
said
right
or
to
not
say or not
said.
right to say. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Well, do you want to say more about this particular time and like the massive waking up and the, on the our 3D level or our human level, the
Yes.
discomfort of that, which is maybe a mild
Yes.
word.
Yes. And here's the thing, because uh, it is my belief that consciousness and this awakening, it must go through the body. That's the conclusion I've come to. It might change a few years from now, but today, after all these years, it's you can do all these have these beautiful perceptions and meditate, and we all feel good if we can meditate all the time, but that's not practical. We've got work and we've got families, and so if you can learn to engage your physical body, and your body loves to participate. It's like, I want to do a psychic reading, I want to participate, like your body wants to be involved. And so here's the thing. It's like in some higher, there's a lot of talk about spiritual bypassing, and it's like, okay, so all the wars in the world are, purging, violence and all the old karma and all that stuff. So we just have to let it do its thing. And that can be true in the 36th dimension,
Mm, hmm.
right? And if we were living in this 36th dimension, it would feel true on every level. But we're in this third dimensional world, and our body is going through it. It's
Hmm.
feeling afraid. It's feeling angry, at the powers that be. It's feeling like, what the heck are they thinking? These are all body things. So we can't just pat the body on this is all from the book of Nancy. It's all from the book of Nancy. And it's
Hmm.
just based on my years of doing readings. What I've learned is you can't just pat your body on the head and say, um, there's a divine power.
Hmm.
There's a
Hmm.
divine reason. We just have to believe there's a divine reason. And there is. But at the third dimensional level, we're being asked to participate as a human.
Hmm.
And we're being asked to learn how to manage, not suppress, not shut down our feelings and emotions, but they're beautiful. Like our spirit loves to flow through our emotional field, our sexual field, our creative field, our male field, our female field. And if we're trying to shut that down so that we just feel the higher levels, that's where it can really come out sideways. So we're learning how to love being a human.
Hmm.
And I used to have people tell me all the time, it's like, I just want to learn how to be light. I just want to be enlightened by Friday. I don't even want to come back here. And I've heard this enough times from people that I have now learned that the moment that you are excited about being here, and that even if you don't have to, you want to come back, that's when you've truly arrived.
Hmm.
That's where you can truly have that appreciation. So now what's going on in the world, it's my body's going to have real feelings about it. And
Hmm.
my body's going to want to say a few F bombs over and over and over and over again. And it's, I can't say that's not spiritual, because your body just expresses how it needs to express. What can I do to support you, body?
Hmm.
I'm really angry right now. Okay, what could help you to I just want to be angry. Okay, then you just let the anger flow, or I just want to go for a walk, or I just don't want to talk to anybody right now. Whatever it is to support the body. But I do think with what's going on in the world, I do find myself going, what the heck?
Mm.
And I do know that we can just be going through it over the next few years, because we know that what I know to be true is what I believe in the book of Nancy, but I believe in that we have the potential to fly. We have the potential to levitate. We have the potential to, I love quantum physics. That's my new big thing now. Like our whole systems being reworked and realigned and restructured and coming back together so that we are more efficient. But then it's like, well, then what's happening to that person over there that they're making all these crappy decisions,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I give myself time to go there. I let myself be human. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I just let myself be totally human. How long do you need to be human? How long do you need to kick the dirt? How long do you need to throw a few rocks at people? And like, okay, now let's go a little deeper, and let's try to settle it through meditation and things like that. So my big message a lot of times is try not to ignore those human parts. Let them have a voice, because we just get sick if we try to suppress it.
Mm-hmm.
This has been part 1 of my conversation with Nancy Rebecca. If you enjoyed it, stay tuned for the next episode, where we dive into blue light beings, past lives, and facing the reality of suffering during these transformative apocalyptic times. See you there. You've been listening to Priestess of Ordinary Things, a podcast for spiritual misfits, modern mystics, and folks of all genders tasked with tending the sacred in everyday life. If you're a spiritual misfit who feels lost, stuck, or hungry for connection and wanting more resources for being more grounded in your relationship to your body and to the earth, go to my website at www.katefontana.com/earth-magic and get the free gift I created just for you. It's called Earth Magic, 3 simple celebrations of spiritual nourishment. Also, make sure to subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss an episode. And if there's something you heard here that was meaningful to you, please let me know in the comments. I read all of them, and it really helps me know that I'm speaking to real people and not just out into empty space. Lastly, if there's someone in your life you think could benefit from what you heard here, I'd be so grateful if you'd share it with them. You belong here. Don't give up. May we dance through these times, awake and together.